So the other day I was looking for new Mac apps to try out on my MacBook, and I stumbled across this website. These are all of the macOS defaults, which are more or less all of the system preferences on my device. But when I was looking through here, I had found a bunch of different settings that you can't actually adjust in system settings. As you can see, there are literally dozens of different things that you can adjust inside here. And I would say at least half of these you can't actually adjust in the system settings whatsoever. What you have to do is actually go inside the terminal to adjust all of them. So I wanted to mess around a bit and see what we can come up with here. So I think I'm just going to attempt to run this first command and see what happens. So if we go to the terminal, paste the command. Whoa. Okay, well, I guess all of these commands do work, which means that we can just go ahead and get started on messing around with some of these system defaults. So I think the best place to start off would be with the dock, because I use an app called Docky that allows me to adjust the actual animation of the dock itself. So I can set it to have 0 animation delay, 0 animation speed, and then when I actually go down to my dock, it'll appear instantly. And if you really think about it, if every time I go down to my dock, it takes me, I don't know, let's say 2 or 3 seconds for it to appear, over the course of a couple years, that adds up to real time that just kind of ends up getting wasted. But what I didn't know is that most of the features that I like from that app itself is actually built into macOS. So let's take a look at auto hide and see. No, that's not it. Okay, so under dock, auto hide animation time. Yeah, so we can set the actual animation time to literally 0 itself. So if I copy this command, bring it over to the terminal, hit enter. Okay, did it work? I mean, it's pretty close to being what the app had. It's not as fast, but it definitely is quite a bit faster. Okay, so what else can you do here? So this here changes the actual animation delay itself. So I'm pretty sure that if I set this to 0 as well, that will make the dock even faster. Yeah, that right there, this is what I have been using with a separate app this entire time. But of course, I had no idea it was built into macOS. So let's see what else we got here. Show recents. I'm pretty sure that I can adjust this. Yeah, I can change this from the system settings UI. So that's not fun. Minimize animation effect. Okay. Yeah, so we have the typical genie one that everyone knows and loves. The scale. Kinda boring. And whoa, there's a third one? I had no idea. Interesting. Because I know that in the system settings, you have Genie and Scale, but there's no suck. That doesn't exist, unless I'm tripping. So let's go ahead and check. Pretty sure that'd be under Dock. Yeah, there's literally only 2. I am curious, though, what this would actually look like. So if I put that in there, hit Enter, then I minimize a window. Whoa, okay, the windows they just teleport. Whoa, that's interesting. That's very bizarre. I had no idea that was even there. I guess that's kind of cool. Active applications only. Oh, yeah, let's not do that then. Okay, what else do we have? Group windows by application. What does that mean? Interesting. So if you have multiple windows open of the same app, it should, in theory, organize them all together. So if I grab a few of these windows and just leave them kind of like that, and I turn this on like so, I go into mission control. Yeah, look at that. It organizes all of them by the app. That's actually kind of interesting. That to me actually seems quite useful if you are running multiple windows of an app. I think that could be really, really useful. So what else do we got in here? Let's see what Finder has for us. Add a quit option to Finder. Interesting. Well, considering this behaves strangely, I'm not sure if I really want to try turning this on. So let's not try that. Default view style? What does that mean? Interesting. So you can set the default view across all of Finder with these commands. Very interesting. That's actually pretty cool because I can't tell you how many times that I've tried to set the default view option for Finder to, let's say, like a list view or something, and then I'll go and open a folder and it'll still show the icons. That's actually pretty cool because there's no way to set this globally across every single folder on your computer. So this is something I will come back to eventually. Focus follows mouse. Focus of the terminal windows when the mouse cursor hovers over them. See this right here? This is something that Linux does, where let's say my mouse right now is hovered over my browser. If I go over to the terminal, it'll automatically focus on whatever app is beneath my cursor, which to me makes way more sense for how a computer should function. But for whatever reason, you can't do that on macOS, which is kind of ridiculous. But for some strange reason, you can do it with terminal windows, but only terminal windows. Who in the right mind decided that? Like, why can't I just do it with all windows? It just seems so ridiculous. Mouse acceleration, dragging with 3-finger drag. I didn't even know this was a possibility. That's pretty interesting. Well, honestly, I'm kind of curious if there is more I can do with these macOS defaults, because this says incomplete list of macOS default commands with demos. And at the very bottom, when I was reading this earlier, feel free to open a GitHub issue if you know an unlisted command. So it seems like there are more commands out there that just aren't on this website. So I want to do a little investigating to see what else I can find, if there's anything else out there that I can adjust. So I asked Claude to find a few of them that we can mess around with. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Apparently this is a Steve Jobs slow motion Easter egg. Not sure what that means, but let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, classic. Opens up all of my apps. But what did it do? Shift click minimize. So shift. Okay then. All right. That's definitely it's quite bizarre. It's very strange how it like glitches out so much. Yeah, even when I don't shift click it, it still has that really buggy stuff that happens. So let's try the next one. Copy, paste, enter, get out of there, one app at a time, Mac. But what does it actually do? It doesn't seem like it does anything. All right, it is time to consult the crab once again. Well, it seems like this one in particular doesn't actually work on my version of macOS. I'm up to date with my operating system, so I'm guessing it's a bit of an old one. So what's next? Mission control speed. Okay, copy, paste, enter. All right, so if I go into mission control, whoa, there's little icons here now. That's kind of cool. I don't think those were there before. I don't think anything actually changed. Weird. Well, what if I try this one? Copy, paste, enter. All right, let's see what this one does. Absolutely nothing. Literally nothing at all. So it turns out that on the most recent version of macOS, which is Tahoe, a lot of these commands don't actually exist anymore because Apple deleted the code. So for the last two that we did here, these just no longer exist whatsoever. So it doesn't really matter what I attempt to do because it's just going to fail silently, which is kind of bizarre because I don't know where these came from then. These little icons. Obviously this command did something. It just didn't do what it was supposed to do. So I suppose we can move on to the next one. Edge drag space switch instant. I don't know about you. This doesn't sound like English to me. So let's copy this, paste, enter. Okay. So what does that mean? If I have this up, I drag, whoa. It's literally instant. That is insane. Okay, so if I switch to a separate virtual desktop, that is still very slow. But if I use an app to drag over to a different one, it's quite literally instant. That is sick. That will save so much time when I'm doing things. Wow. Okay, that alone is worth it. Okay, number 5, key repeat past the settings limit. So let's do the first one, enter. So it did say may want to log out. So let's try quitting Obsidian, open it back up, new note. Okay, that seems the exact same. So I'm assuming this one is another dud, which is kind of disappointing. So what's the next one? Windows pop instead of zoom, dialog snap. I don't know what that means though. Okay, so let's copy this, enter. But what does it mean though? I don't know what it means. Okay, so apparently these basically remove delays. So if I expand a window, essentially it'll like glide into place. But with these commands, it should just like basically snap into existence. But I have to refresh the app. So let's do that real quick. Whoa, okay, that's actually pretty fast. But if I do it the normal way, it still doesn't do that animation. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool because that's wicked fast. I think I'll leave it. Okay, so Claude says that these are rapid fire ones. So copy this one. It says to drag a file over a folder. So let's attempt that. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's see here. Okay, so if I drag this over the folder, interesting. So I guess that animation is like slightly faster. I mean, whatever. Okay, so I asked Claude to go through and find a bunch more of these defaults just to see what's out there and kind of mess around with what actually exists. Okie dokie. So let's try this one first. Paste, boom. So this one should be the animation speed. So minimize. Whoa, that was pretty nuts. It's so fast. Like what? That's insane. But I honestly kind of like that. That's way faster. So I think I'm going to leave that on for the time being. The fire ends mystery. I don't think I pronounced that correctly, but I don't care. So let's copy this, paste, enter. So what does it do though? Do I have to maybe reset this one? I mean, it's possible, right? Let's try it again. Yeah, I don't even know if this one actually does anything. This might be a dud as well. So I asked Claude whether or not this is a dud, and it turns out that it probably isn't, but it's actually a new apps view in the Launchpad. So this could very well be like a new feature that Apple's been cooking on that they haven't actually released yet, but it's sitting there in the code. Very bizarre. I don't know if that even does anything though. Like I'm not noticing a difference. This is honestly kind of bothering me. Well, I can't tell if we discovered a new feature that isn't released yet or if it's a dud. I really can't. Alrighty, so I asked Claude to add some notes so I know what I'm looking for when we're doing all this stuff. So for the X fade, the one that we just ran, in theory, it should work with reduce motion on. So I have to go ahead and turn that on. Reduce motion. Boom. Let's turn that on real quick and then enter, which means if I hit control and arrow, I mean, that does seem a little bit faster. This one should adjust the mission control animation speed, but I don't think it did. Mission control frame rate? There's no way this is gonna work. Yeah, I didn't think so. Kill that. Boom. Interesting. This one should change the bounce of an icon. So if I quit this and open it, no. That did not change the bounce. Alright, so I think that the last one I'm going to try out is this one, because this sounds really interesting. Drag any window from anywhere while holding Control plus Command. This seems really useful, because I know this exists on Linux, but does it actually work? Control, Command. Okay, this doesn't seem to be working. Do I maybe first have to quit the app and then try again? Perhaps. Oh my god, that's so insane. So if I hit Control Command and I'm literally in the middle of the window, I can just move it around. That is so sick. Oh man, I'm leaving that one on because this is so useful. But does it, whoa, what did I just do? Whoops, okay. So I think it only works on apps that I have to reopen. So if I quickly quit Obsidian, open her back up, this should in theory work. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm definitely leaving this on. That is so useful. All right, so after restarting my MacBook, I wanted to test to see if the key repeat actually worked, because supposedly I had to like log out, restart everything, blah, blah, blah. So now if I hold down a key, it's almost instant, which is really cool, because I think that in theory should speed up using my MacBook significantly. So after all of that, I've decided that I'm only going to keep the instant dock because this is honestly something I don't think I could live without anymore. And I think that I'm going to keep Control Command window dragging, because this alone, so useful, because you don't have to go and hunt for the title bar every time to move it around. You can just grab from anywhere and it just works. But now that I no longer need my app dock key, I can actually just get rid of it. Phenomenal.